about that time for us to say the win.
Run-DMC and Jam Master Jay.
Man, that brings back so many good memories. The Kings from Queens. Welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. Today we step into the rhythm of Queens, where the pulse of hip hop really beats every single day. As the curtain rises on Peacock's eagerly anticipated three-part docuseries Kings from Queens, the Run-DMC Story, we have the privilege of being joined by two living legends whose influence has reverberated far beyond the boroughs where it all began. One is really the architect behind the Run-DMC Story. The other is a revered superstar who not only produced hit records for himself, but also for others, including Run-DMC. And when Run broke into the game, they used to call him, he was known anyway, as this man's son. The documentary Kings from Queens premieres on Thursday, February 1st, and tells the journey of the pillars of hip-hop royalty, Run-DMC. From the group's groundbreaking impact on the musical landscape, the fusion of hip-hop with rock, and the iconic collaboration of Walk This Way, to Russell Simmons' expansive career that transcends music into the realms like fashion, film, and activism. We're about to embark on an insightful journey through the eras that shaped not only Run-DMC, but the very essence of hip-hop. As his rap career progressed, Kurtis Blow also made a commitment to himself to keep his lyrics family friendly, and not many can claim more success than the These Are the Breaks legend. We welcome Def Jam founder and the godfather of hip-hop, Russell Simmons, and the one and only Kurtis Blow. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Good to see both of y'all.
Thank you.
Nice to be seen.
Man, this is
my pleasure. My honor to be here.
It is an absolute honor to have you, Kurtis. And Kurtis, let me just say this. You know, Kurtis has, as the world knows, this is not no breaking news, and he has been dealing with some health issues. But Kurtis looking great, Russell.
Yeah, look, God blessed him with more good health and another 50 years. So I'm very fortunate to still have him in my life. We worried for a bit, but look where he's come through, and he looks great. I saw him perform recently at Leo Cohen's when he was honored for City of Hope, and Kurtis performed. It was great and just brought back so many memories. So I'm really happy to see him this way, and he's going to be this way for a minute, right?
Yeah.
He's got some good breaks, right? So what's up?
Yeah, so Kurtis, let me go back to you for 1 second, because when Reverend Run started out, what was it? They called him the son. He was billed as the son of Kurtis Blow. How was that? What happened?
Well, it goes back to the early days of hip hop, you know, in the mid 70s, when Russell and I were embarking on this thing called hip hop and running around Queens and promoting hip hop, and we had a club called Night Fever Disco. And so during those times, you know, every MC, popular MC, had their protege. You know, like DJ Hollywood had the son of Hollywood. His name was DJ Smalls, and Africa Bambaataa had the son of Islam. Africa Islam was the son of Bambaataa. So I was talking to Russell over in Queens, out in Hollis, and when we opened up the Night Fever Disco, I said, "Man, I need a protege like you know, Eddie Chiba and Hollywood and Starsky and those guys, because there was so much competition during that time." And so I said, "Man, why not your brother, your younger brother, Run? You know, he's incredible. You know, he was DJing and rapping on the mic up in the attic at Russell's house." I remember those days, Russ, and how they had a whole crew. They now call them the Hollis crew. And these young kids were up in the attic just DJing, and I used to come up there and help them out and give them pointers and everything. So I made Run my protege. Yeah. He was a little younger, about 5 years younger than I and Russell. And so that's how it came to be, you know. My disco son, DJ Run, likes to play music and have big fun. Yes, yes, y'all. That was our saying. And that's how he got started. And he really got good at it, rehearsing up
Faster
in
than a
the attic.
speeding,
And go
faster than
ahead,
a
Russ.
speeding bullet from a gun. My disco son, DJ Run.
There it is.
Right,
Another
Hey
right,
ride.
Russell,
right.
so the documentary, Russell, it promises like an intimate look into their journey. Obviously you was there from the very beginning before it all started. Can you highlight a specific moment or aspect of their story that epitomizes the enduring influence and legacy of Run DMC on hip hop?
Well, let me start that. What Curtis is talking about is before there was recording art, there was only a performing art. These were performers, and that's what made them special, and that's what made hip hop. Their live performances were electric, and that's what made hip hop. And so we recorded much later. He's talking about the mid 70s. So there was a lot of work done before that that laid the groundwork. So I just wanted to make that clear because you listening to Curtis's story. Yes, there was
Right.
Starsky and Hollywood and Eddie Chiba, and there were Bambaataa. These guys, all of them were performing artists and not recording artists at that time. So some transitioned, like Curtis, and became a big superstar, the king of rap. Curtis Blow was billed as, and some, were great but didn't get to really have hit records. And we talk about that a little bit, but not that's not today's story. But it's a very interesting story because people don't know how great
Mhm.
these artists were in the community before there was such thing as recording hip hop. So you asked me about the epitome of Run DMC. I think Joey cutting for Curtis Blow is, and supporting him in the way he did during that time is when we started to recognize that he had great talent. And the actual moments that stand out, there are many. I can't, them performing at Live Aid and what they
Yeah.
said, stepped on stage, Live Aid, the 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 preacher gave and the poor got paid. I mean, all of the fact that they spoke about uplifting and being in philanthropic and social and political spaces. I got the right to vote and will elect other rappers can't stand us and give us respect. I mean, these kind of things, and Curtis Blow as well. They were so upbeat and inspired, and they meant so much to the community. So there are many moments like that, and Curtis has had many as well. So I
Yeah.
don't know that I have one particular moment that epitomizes them. There were many.
Now,
I
let me
have one.
just
I have
go
one for
ahead,
you,
Curtis.
Russell.
Yeah,
Well, in 1979, so I had the opportunity to get the first record deal for MC, and it was a major label, Mercury Polygram Records. And so here I am, so happy. I'm going on tour. I'm performing around the country now with Run as my DJ, and he's cutting it up. He cut it up for me and come out and say some rhymes, and I would cover it up for him. It was an incredible the duo that we had. But what happened was, I was getting ready to go on the first nationwide tour called the 80 Platinum Tour, right? 1980. And it was our rest in peace, the manager of the Commodores, Ashburn, right? And
Benny.
Benny Ashburn, that's his name, right, right. And so I'm preparing for the tour, for this major tour, right? 50, 60 shows. So I'm happy. I'm coming to Russell's house, talk to his dad, rest in peace. Uh, uh, yeah, man, we going on tour. No, no, Joey can't go on tour. He has to stay in school. I said, oh man, we got a big tour. It's gonna be incredible, incredible. He said, yeah, please, Dad, let me go on tour. Let me go on tour. His dad said, no, you have to stay in school. You have to stay in school. And so he said, I can DJ. You broke your arm because a week before that, Joey had broke his arm playing basketball with some cat down the
Remember
block
that.
named Jam Master Jay. Jason Mizell. He broke his arm playing ball, so he couldn't go on tour. His dad said, "No, you got to stay in school. And plus, you broke your arm. Look at that. Oh, I could still DJ with one arm. Look, bam, 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 right?" And so he didn't go on tour with us. I came back 6 months later with Davey DMX DJing for me, and I found out Joey had formed a rap group called Run-DMC with
Listen,
this
those are the
youngster
breaks.
called Daryl McDaniels, right? Those kids that were playing up in their attic, Runny Rave, rest in peace. And so, man, the story is if Joey did not break his arm, there would be no Run DMC.
Wow. Wow.
But Curtis, I think it was the father because Joey cut the record with one arm, so he was
Right.
amazing in one arm. That
He
was
was
kind of
ready.
that was part of it. That was kind of part of what we thought would be an attraction if he had gone because he could do
Right.
it in one arm. But yes, it's true. If his father hadn't, and the arm break, those things, if they hadn't happened, there would be no Run DMC.
Wow. Look at that. And so what about the creative process, Russell? I mean, we got from Run DMC and listen, everybody got to check this documentary out, the Kings of Queens, Kings from Queens. Documentary drops the part 1 Thursday, February 1st. But the creative process, Russell, behind songs like It's Tricky, Walk This Way, Sucker MCs. I mean, what was that like?
Well, the earliest records, there was different producers. The first ones I made with Larry Smith, and this idea of making b-boy records, with no music, right? That was the thing that made Run DMC separate in the beginning. A song like Suck MC had no melody. The melody was in the vocal. It's like that. It's the same. So that was a very special process because we didn't expect anybody to buy it. There was no commerciality in these ideas. It was just our core community. So it was for the fans, but we didn't know if the fans extended more than outside of Hollis and the Bronx.
Right.
We thought those were just b-boys, but it turned out that what we loved was accessible to everyone. But the rest of the records became more, without intentionally selling out, they became more melodic and more pop. And a song like Walk This Way was, a different process, I think, from a creative standpoint. But what we made early, and then we went back to, and we always leaned on the b-boy record. Kurtis Blow knows he's a breakdancer. The beats that were under the rappers were a core component of hip hop. And some people even think that without the beats, that's not hip hop. Of course, we got way too much experience to say that these days. Hip hop is expansive to all forms of music, from jazz to blues to rock and roll. Wherever the beat was, though, we thought that's where we were. And I think Run DMC were b-boys, and they were like the kind of early on when that kind of music wasn't exposed to the mainstream. A song like Suck MC was a dramatically different thing. And when I left the studio, I remember them saying, "Oh, when are you going to play the music?" I said, "It's played. That's it." And people were shocked. Like nobody wanted to leave the studio. They thought we didn't have a record until we played music, but we did. The beat was the music.
Yeah. Kurtis, Russell has a lot of people may not know this, but Russell has done a lot. Y'all mentioned these names like Eddie Chiba and Hollywood to try and give those not only give those luminaries their flowers, but to try to put money in their pocket to try it with the NFTs and things of that nature. How important, and we're gonna get back to Run DMC in a moment, but how important is that to Russell's considered the godfather of hip hop. I mean, Def Jam and all of that. It's like the Motown of hip hop. But how important is that to try and make sure, especially we just did the 50th anniversary celebration, to make sure that these folks who paved the way, Hollywood, Chiba, all those names y'all mentioned, how important is that? And what do you say about Russell's undertaking?
Well, I'll say this, that I think that Russell can go home and sleep at night. There are a lot of people out there who made billions and hundreds of millions off the backs of hip hop and the culture and the artists that actually are the creative influences of the culture. And here they are 50 years later, sitting around in nursing homes and can't pay their rent. I just found out about Boogaloo Sam, one of the first poppers over on the West Coast, over in Oakland. Big shout out to him. He's losing his house right now. There's a GoFundMe to help save his house right now. So, Russell was the man. He was very successful financially. And so to look back and say, look, man, I got to reach back to the people who helped me get there. Says a lot about his heart. It says a lot about his integrity, his passion for the love of the culture. And I thank him. I thank him. And I thank him again. Thank you, Russell.
Well, that's very kind of you, Curtis. But you've always been a voice for them as well. I feel that as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of hip hop, we have to, the masterminds, I call them, the people who actually laid the groundwork, have to be celebrated, because they're gonna, like you said, he has a misfortune of losing his house. Others have strokes. Others have died. Others can't afford to live even a minimal lifestyle. And these people are the foundation of what we stand on. So we have to keep reminding them. They were just saying they want to do a big Def Jam documentary. I said, well, we can't do that, and I don't want to participate in it until we start the first 2 episodes. If it's going to be 10 episodes, I want 2 episodes on the founding fathers or the masterminds of hip hop. The story of Kurtis Blow before Kurtis made a record. And Curtis would walk out and say, people in the place, the bass in your face, you're about to see first place in the rap race. Sound you hear so good to hear. Have no fear. Kurtis Blow is here. And he, introducing the disco dream on the Mean Machine, Darth Vader, he used to say, faster than a speeding bullet from a gun, my disco son, DJ Run. Or Davey D, rock from land to land, depending on the DJ. The great Grandmaster Flash, he had a rap for all of them. This was before there was such thing as rap records. And see, he's one of the few that transitioned from a performing artist who had a big following to a recording artist who became a national and international figure. So that's a very important thing that we talk about, the performing artists who maybe never got to record a record, or did, but no one ever heard them. So I think that's just an obligation. And I don't think I deserve a pat on the back for it. It's an obligation. And Curtis is taking on that same obligation. So thank you for that, Kurt.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate both of y'all. Run-DMC, Kings from Queens, they broke barriers by maintaining an urban look and an urban sound. And both of y'all, I mean, I know Russell, you know, that's Joe is your brother. Kurtis has been an integral part of this as well. So both of y'all, can you shed some light on the importance of their authenticity in an era when other groups were attempting to mold themselves to different images?
Well, fashion. I'll let Russell take it away, Russell. That's your deal. Fashion, clothes,
no, listen,
the look.
Kurtis Blow was a Harlem. He dressed like Harlem.
Yeah,
and he was legitimate. No, serious. I mean, serious. And Run-DMC dressed like Queens. A lot of the other artists, saw the cameos and the confunctions, and Rick James, and even the punk rock bands. They thought that those outfits, made them more stand out more, and that was good. The fact that these guys wanted to borrow from the neighborhood, and they made what was a normal uniform into a costume, because all it was a uniform. They shell toes with no shell-toe Adidas with no laces. That was a uniform. The leather suit with the velour hat, that was a uniform. That's what they wore in the hood. That's what the street people wore when they got dapped. That's what they put on. So they all three put it on, and it became suddenly, or even the Adidas outfits. They just wore these things because it represented the hood. And if you make it shine enough, it looked like a costume versus just a uniform. So you understand that? So that's what we did. We tried that, and the expression I think that sticks in my head, and we did it for the Beastie Boys as well. They used to dress up in red swiney. They used to wear red Puma sweatsuits and Pumas, which was a hood thing. I said, but y'all ain't from the hood, so y'all wear what you wear. So the Beastie Boys wore what they wore, Run-DMC wore what they wore, and
we lost Russell's volume. We still lost your volume, Russell.
And that's the thing that
there you go.
reaffirms. Oh, the expressions keep it real. That we reaffirm over and over again where we were from in our outfits and in our language and all that. So the honesty and the integrity that came from that, believe it or not, that spread around the world. You couldn't make yourself commercial enough to be better than your honest expression. So there was no, and I think that's why hip hop has lasted, because of its honesty and its integrity.
Curtis, what did you see and all three of them, Run, DMC, Jam Master Jay, Jason, what did you see in those three guys that told you or possibly hinted to you that they were going to become someone that in 2024 we were going to be sitting here talking about a documentary about their careers and their lives?
Well, I would like to say I think Run DMC is the greatest group in the history of hip hop so far, 50 years, right? I know a lot of people shout out Wu-Tang Clan or NWA or blah, 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 blah. But I saw these guys early on. I remember them being on stage and how the crowd reacted to them and how they were really real on stage and tough and manly, and something that we needed in hip hop, because I'm out there, trying to love all the girls, right? and trying to be this American rapper, the rapper's rapper that doesn't spit out any profanity or no violence, or trying to keep it clean with integrity. But
That's
I
why
made a
I
way.
pop shit like that.
You know what I mean? And so
he said, let me tell you something. I gotta cut him off. He said, people in place to base your face. He said, Kurtis Blow is my name. I'll do the play and do the paying. Satisfaction guaranteed. You get no money back. And I could never be whack. And that's why I pop shit like that. A little profanity there. I'm sorry.
But those were not my rhymes. That was Melly Mel, right? So here it is. I'm trying to have this integrity with hip hop. And so I opened the door. I made my sacrifices by making songs without profanity, 240 rap songs, and never used profanity. I did one time on basketball. I said Dr. J shook the whole damn team, but that's 1 out of 240.
And that was profanity, right, for you?
I didn't realize it. I never thought of it that way. I just thought Kurtis Blow was just honest, and he was Kurtis Blow.
Right,
well,
right.
Okay. Well, go ahead. And you were.
But
go ahead.
So those were the sacrifices I made, because I knew that there was going to be a future in this thing called hip hop. And I met Reverend Jesse Jackson in Chicago back in 1980. He came up to me. He said, Kurtis, you guys are the new icons and heroes of the community. And I want to tell you this, and you go back and you tell all of your friends or all your peers what I was just about to tell you. Now, you guys are the new kings, the new heroes of the community. But if you want this thing called hip hop to go far, Kurtis, you gotta keep it clean. They will accept you if you keep it clean. So I went back to the Sugar Hill Gang and Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5, and we sat down before we had our first national interview on Radio Scope. And I told them what Reverend Jackson had said. We are the heroes of the community, and we have, responsibility to keep it clean, because we can take it far, and the pop radio will play us, and it's going to be all good. We have a future, right? And so right then we all agreed to keep it clean, and we established what we call a code of ethics. And that's what I stuck to my whole career. But I opened the door for people like Run DMC and Big Daddy Kane and Eric B. and Rakim and KRS-One, who came forward after that and took it to the next level after Run DMC. So it's all good. I'm not mad at anyone. I want to shout out Russell, because Russell, he's not telling you. He was a sociology major in college where we met. I was a communications major. So we hooked up, and he has the experience and the knowledge of the mass, the study of the masses. That's what sociology is, right,
Yeah.
Russell?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
funny too, because you know what? These are type of stories that go mostly untold when it comes to hip hop, because like you said, you were a communications major. Chuck D was a communications, mass communications. Russell sociology. There's a lot to be said about that, because you both know that when hip hop, and especially in the 80s when it started to find a groove, mainstream media and politicians said, oh, it's just a fad. It will go away. But they didn't realize
Right.
what was really behind it.
they
Right.
said it was a fad. I mean, it was funny. We came out of an era where disco music was very popular. And on black
Uh,
radio in New York, we didn't have any music. So hip hop, the b-boy culture, music, everything was a rebellion against listening to YMCA and I Love America, Patrick
oh,
Duvet on the radio. We listened to disco on the radio. So what did they do but play b-boy records, their own music? They rebelled. So there was a moment where hip hop was a rebellion, and as in every black cultural revolution, they built blues, and then blues changed, and they built rock and roll, and then or jazz, and then jazz changed, and they built rock and roll. And it kept evolving. But we would build something, the mainstream would water it down, and we would do something new. And I think that that's been our culture in America, and that's how American culture has evolved. We had to do something of our own. Disco had taken over the airwaves in New York. We had no funk. We had nothing but gay disco on black radio, and that was it. And so
right.
our music was really a reflection of our reality. So some made more commercial music, but in the beginning, the b-boy records and the b-boy culture was where we played our own. We played the James Brown Funky President, or Bob James Mardi Gras, or Billy Squire Big Beat. That's rock and roll, jazz, uh, funk, all that we played on our own because we had none of that. And so when we went to our parties, we had music that spoke to our culture and us.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
again, the documentary is Kings from Queens, Run DMC, getting the treatment, the documentary treatment. Arguably one of the greatest albums in hip hop history is Raising Hell. Can you guys talk about what was it like when that album came out? Because we had not seen anything like Raising Hell until it came out. What was it, 85, 86?
86.
86. I mean, what was that like when Run DMC hit us with Raising Hell? It was like, who could have expected that?
Well, we had done 2 albums with Larry, and we relied heavily on b-boy, but we also started to put the rock guitars in there. Because the one thing we wouldn't do is play any normal instrumentation. We were very against playing what we heard on the radio. So we wouldn't use a bass line. We wouldn't use the guitar riffs. We wouldn't use any of those things, that rhythm guitar rather. But we wanted to be loud and abrasive. That was our job. And then comes along a rock producer to partner with, because I would always, and even the loud music, that the rock and roll was just because we wanted to be loud. It could have just been noise. But Eddie Martinez played beautiful melodies with the guitar. But the fact is, we just wanted not to be R&B. We were so crystal clear we didn't want to. And then, having met Rick Rubin, who loved rock and roll, our rock got more bluesy. So that's what mainstream rock and roll was. Or that's what it had previously been. So then a song like Walk This Way, or, some of the other songs, they were songs that were more rock and roll in many ways than Rockbox and King of Rock. Rockbox and King of Rock was a product of two, even in some ways, a product of George Clinton. But those rock guitars and the loud music we made was transition from when Larry left and I was producing with Rick Rubin. Yeah, we could make beats to the rhyme, which was like Jam Master Jay. And yes, we could make, Peter Piper and those kind of songs. And that was really Run DMC on their own as they evolved. They made those songs. But it's tricky. And Walk This Way was songs that were influenced greatly by Rick Rubin and mainstream rock and roll.
Yeah. Listen,
We were gonna make. Let me give you an example. We were gonna make Toys in the Attic. We called it. Here's how little we knew
kidding.
about mainstream. We were going to call it Toys in the Attic because that was the beat. You scratch the album up, you don't know who the name of the band is because you scratched the label. So we called it Toys in the Attic, but it actually was Walk This Way. We were only going to scratch the beat. And the most you would have heard was that and the beat back and forth. That was how we were going to make it. And Rick said, why don't we make the whole record? And it was a moment where they were like, what? I don't know if we could do that, but it was Rick's idea to do such a thing.
Well, I mean, listen, Walk This Way. So interesting you say that. For those who don't know, I mean, obviously, people know that they did a duet with Aerosmith as an Aerosmith original song, but Toys in the Attic is one of Aerosmith's biggest albums. So it's a lot of connections there. It's ironic. And you mentioned Rick Rubin's attachment to rock. Kurtis, we see a lot of artists that came after you, of course, came after Run-DMC. For a while there, you guys were in the industry considered the gold standard. We got to try and be like Kurtis. We got to try and be like Run-DMC. Now, of course, we want to try and be like Jay-Z, and we want to try and be like Drake or whatever. But for you, what was it to see Run? I mean, you told us the story earlier, but to see him and D and J really become the kings of rap at that point, right? The one that everybody was talking about. They crossed over, like we talked about with Walk This Way, and Raising Hell. What was that like for you and other artists to see this explosion by your peers, someone in your peer group?
Well, a lot of people would be jealous, and envious of their success. But me being that I was a part of it, the very beginning, this is the son of Kurtis Blow. So whatever he does in his life, if it is successful, I'm living that life as well. And same thing with Russell. Anything, I told him this many years ago. Look, man, you are so successful, so popular, so good with what you're doing. I'm living my life through you right now. And I'm so proud of you. And it's joy. It's just joy,
But
happiness,
Kurtis Blow
to
is a
see that.
different guy. Let me cut you off. Kurtis Blow is a preacher. I don't know if you know that.
Yep.
And his relationship with God is ironclad. And this is the core of his heart, and it's why he could say what he said. Not only was he a part of everyone's success because he sees himself in others, and that's in yogis we refer to God's consciousness. When you see yourself in others, when you see all of us connected, the collective is God in some people's mind, right? So and in the Bible and in the Quran, Torah, everything, there's this idea of the union with God is almost like union with humanity and Mother Earth. So it's like him seeing himself in others and watching their success and feeling a part of it. Also, when he was smart enough to know, when you see that, you realize you are lifting up. You're not competing. In other words, when Run-DMC had a bigger success, then his record sold more too. Right. When Run-DMC became mainstream, rap became mainstream, and all the artists who were successful in rap were elevated, some just by this.
Yep.
Yeah, we lost you again, Russell. Still don't have you. We still
you
don't
see
have
yourself in them. If you're lucky enough to see yourself in the others, if you're lucky enough to have God in your life and you then see yourself in others, then you'll also recognize that others' success are lifting you up. And that's something that, you have to have in your heart. And maybe if they work on it, we're all working on cleaning our heart all the time. That self-study is life's journey, right?
Right. You're exactly right, Russell. And I agree. And I go back to this story about Run-DMC at Madison Square Garden. The first time they played there, right?
Yep.
So it was sold out. And so they headlined the show. So they come out. When they come out, everybody in the audience had on Adidas. So I think it was Run. He said, man, I see a lot of my fans out there, my friends out there. So come on, y'all. Let's show them that we support this hip hop. Throw your Adidas up in there. Throw it in the Adidas up in the air. And everyone in the place, there were 20,000 Adidas up in the air. I just heard about this story. I wasn't there, but I heard. And to me, that was it. That was the moment. That was the epitome of their career, to see how their fans supported, and they all had on Adidas. That's crazy.
It's amazing, right?
Amazing.
When you see the effect, because this was global, and that's the other thing, Russell. It was global, right? It wasn't just. I mean, these guys from Hollis, Queens, took hip hop to another level globally.
It was a moment, and it was global. And of course, I'm sitting. You know, I travel all over the world now, a lot. I mean, really, a lot. And so living here in Bali, I get on. I usually ride my scooter. If I get in the car, it's rainy season. I got in the car the other day going to yoga, and we're in the car, and they're playing. The driver's playing the music, not me. So he's playing an Indonesian station, and then Nicki Minaj comes on. And then they go back to Indonesian language. It's all over the world, right? I mean, everywhere. There's no place where hip hop is not. In China and in Singapore, wherever I go, we have offices in 11 countries. Wherever I go, there's hip hop. There's no place I can go there's not hip hop.
Right.
So I say that to you because that's what they all did. You know, Kurtis Blow's The Breaks plays everywhere. It didn't just play at the Christmas rapping place in Amsterdam. It was the first place it played. First place it played was in Holland. We went to Holland. We never been nowhere, right, Kurt? We got on a plane. We never been on a plane. Holy shit, we going to Holland.
I told people about the story. We went to France, and we were on the Champs-Élysées having dinner with the Mercury phonogram during that time. And man, it was an incredible dinner. You remember that, Russell?
I do remember that.
I don't eat fish anymore.
Listen, go ahead, Russell.
Kurtis Blow went everywhere. England, France, Germany. You know, the record played everywhere.
Yeah.
But those first years, you were there with me.
We traveled together.
81, we went all around the world, man, and it was incredible. Just seeing the world for the first time, going to places like Paris and London and Berlin and Hamburg and Frankfurt and, man, Japan, Tokyo. These places are incredible cities. Man, going to Italy and being, wow, at the Colosseum for the first time, straight out of Harlem, straight out of Hollis. And here we are. Wow. Yeah. Just amazing. These stories I will never forget. I tell my grandchildren now, the world is a beautiful place. You just see it.
Yeah. See, we go back to what does Kurtis see? This is beautiful. This is because of his lens, his lenses. Then this has everything to do with his faith and his his wisdom, having grown and grown out of and seen a lot of, but grown towards the light. Very beautiful.
I gotta take you back to a time where it wasn't anything to really hold on to or be happy about. In fact, it was an extremely sad time. 2002. I saw you, Russell, and I saw Run. I saw everyone there. Jay's funeral, Merrick Boulevard at the I forget the name. What was the name of the what's his name? The congressman's place there, Floyd Flakes. Russell, Kurt, when you heard the news that Jay was no longer with us, what was your initial reaction, and what was the words that came to your mind, to your heart?
The first thing that happened to me. Go ahead, Kurt.
For me, it was shock, pure shock. Um, I mean, this was a young man. He was very vibrant. He was making moves. He was recording. He had his own studio, making albums. He got me a record deal, and well, not a record deal, but a job to record songs for basketball, for the NBA and stuff like that with the song Basketball. Man, it was incredible working with Jay. He was a supporter of Curtis Blow. He came to my fight when I was boxing one day. And wow, he showed up and he was in my corner rooting for me. And I was like, man, that's Jay, man. Jay came out. So, I mean, there's nothing but love that I always have for Jay. Um, it was like shocking to me to find out this young man, and I was hanging out with the girl who was there. Her name was Lydia High, and there was a big controversy about it and all this. And man, I wanted to stay away from that because I was trying to uh, get my ministry license, so I was going to church every day, and I just tried to stay away because my anger and anger management was not up to par during that time, and I was ready to go to war, uh, uh, but I had no one to go to war.
Yeah. And
You know, no
before
one
we,
knew who did it. That we just found out a
yeah.
few days ago, right? So
Well,
it was like,
the trial has begun on these individuals who allegedly have murdered him, and one of the individuals, Curtis. Before we turn it to Russell and let him tell his give his reflections, is someone that was a childhood friend of Jay.
mm, mm, wow, that's crazy. And
I know all those
that's
kids. Yeah.
life, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. Um, but Russell, what are you thinking?
Well, no, I was sitting in a theater. We were doing previews for Deaf Poetry, and someone told me. I just got up and walked out, and I don't even remember where I went. I just walked out into the street for an hour or so, and I got in the car and I drove to Queens for no good reason. Um, it was a shocking moment, and like as Curtis said, he was he was like the leader of the group. He used to always say, like when Joey and D would get on a plane and take the first two best seats, and he had to go to the back. He said, "Y'all niggas is suckers." He would laugh, but he would always say, "Oh, y'all niggas is suckers." He always would be like the stand-up guy between them, and they like laughing about it because they know Jay was what a gracious and good person Jay was. So anyway, that's
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly, except that I know where I was. I was at the previews they call them before you actually launch a show, and I was at the theater and they were doing the performance, and I got walked out. Someone came and told me.
And you mentioned too, Russell, and not to belabor this, but you mentioned too that you know the kids, know the individuals, and as we stated, one of them, at least one of them, is said to have been a childhood friend. If you had a chance to talk to these men today while they're on trial, what would you say to them, if anything?
I don't know that I would have to say anything to them 20 years later. I don't know that you try people. I like to look at them now and know who they were, who they were 22 years ago and what they're, like people, all of us evolve. People change. 20 years ago, most things like that have statute of limitations because every cell in your body has changed 3 times. They say every 7 years, your entire body is reformulated, and some people's heart changes. Great number of us grow into, a more um, a better relationship with God or a higher perspective. So I don't know what to say to them, but I would say to all the young people who are suffering and ignorant regarding their purpose in life and things that really are the core of their happiness. If anybody knew that by not doing these things or by doing other things, happiness would set in, that life's only goal is happiness, and that certain things promote lasting and stable happiness, and other things have no bearing on or don't help with this quest. if every moment is spent trying to get a quiet, happy moment, right? Then that then that's uh, you buy. What bank robber said, "How'd it go? It went good." People always say it went good, right? So you gotta get people to know what good is and what really feeds their soul and lifts them up. So you just gotta keep reminding them it's right there in the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, the Yoga Sutras. It's right there. The prophets told us, so we forget. So I don't have to tell them what's in their church.
Yeah.
They have to realize it and move towards it.
We got just a couple of minutes left, so I'm gonna just let you guys just respond to this for the last time. The documentary starts February 1st. What aspect of their story, Run DMC's story, do you believe when folks watch this documentary, what is going to resonate most with the audiences, especially um, those who might be just discovering who Run DMC was?
Good question. I would say, man, this documentary should put them in the right place where they belong, which is at the top tier of this culture, of the pioneering culture, the uh, the ambassadors, the go-to guys, the blueprint of this culture is found in the career of Run DMC.
Wow.
That's a lot. Wow. I hope that people see it and understand a little bit more about the history. That Run DMC, as Kurtis said, is part of the blueprint of all of what has become after. But the idea of hip hop's honesty and integrity is found in them, and that they represented the hood. Everyone did. There were never moments where the culture, the collective, was trying to be pop. Whenever you had a pop record, they kind of denounced it. It was big, but then the artist didn't last. So the stability of hip hop lasted because of its integrity. Because these people kept their communities alive in their words and talked about what's good in their community. So Run DMC, I hope that they remind us of the history and why we're still here. Why is there still, a Kendrick Lamar? Why, what happened over these years to reaffirm our truth so much so that we never lost our foothold as leaders in culture, in American pop culture. Hip hop is there because it never lost its truth. And instead of going towards the pop came to them.
Yeah.
Well said.
Two legends. Listen, when they talk about the history of hip hop, the 50th anniversary of hip hop, there's absolutely no way around talking about these two men here today. The Godfather himself, Russell Simmons, and the legend, the king of rap, Kurtis Blow. And Kurtis, please, big up to Miss Walker, Miss Shirley. Tell her we really appreciate her as
Thank you.
well.
Thank you.
And we appreciate her for keeping you with us.
That's
And
right.
that's for sure.
Yeah, her
That's right.
prayers were felt.
Yeah,
I want to thank
absolutely.
everyone for praying for me during my health scares and situations. And, I got to shout out Cool Herc and Bambata, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5, the Funky 4 plus one more. You have the Crash Crew, the Treacherous 3, Fantastic 5, the Run DMC, and we can't forget the Juice Crew.
Yep.
And all of them, Stetsasonic, all of these pioneers, these ambassadors of hip hop were there. And I thank you, and I thank you, Russell, for making it happen as well. Because I remember you boycotting the Grammys to get us a Grammy Award and a Grammy situation happening. So I thank you for your hard work as well. One of the greatest promoters and social media personalities, sociology major, study of the masses. He did it very successful, and I saw it happen with my own eyes, y'all. This guy is the man. I thank you too, Russell.
Absolutely.
That's a lot. But Kurtis Blow, I love you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, Stacy.